Okay, so in regards to the commitments, there have been a series of things in the discussion towards inclusivity, sustainability, and the design philosophy of Fab City that link towards what could be done. And the point of our discussion was precisely to be able to discuss alternatives or pushing forward some of the things that have been mentioned. So that's for one side, the commitments ideas come from this, and from the other thing. So Adrien has briefly mentioned this 2054 goal of the Fab City initially, but IPCC's most recent report highlighted this year that our civilization has 3 very short years to still act with impact on climate change. And so the display of that doomsday clock on the Fab City website, which points to 31 years, is a given vision and thresholds, but we were also interested in the very near time. And this is also, Thomas, where we were interested in commitments that are short-term, mid-term, and longer-term in light of that IPCC number, which are 1 month, 6 months, and 18 months. So, Thomas, maybe you would like to start, and depending on your comments, we can also come back to specific points of the discussion that could be leveraged into further work within the Fab City. So, please.
My question is, what type of commitments you mean? Because some commitments to respond to your positioning towards the sustainability issues raised in relationship to Fab City, or commitments that we are willing to take from the point of view of our work?
Well, we believe that some commitments towards sustainability are very important, and so we would be interested if you have some in mind. But if you believe with your vision of what Fab City is and should become, that there are other more pressing stuff, we're super interested in hearing those as well. So not only related to sustainability, but more generally in what you hope to do with Fab City.
Yeah, let me start with the long term. Our commitment for the long term, and I have to say that maybe it's even mid-term, but long term, is to make Fab City more relevant in the global south and put more emphasis and more focus in the global south. And that's something that you are gonna see that, you know, slowly we're gonna be taking there, and that we're making small steps towards that direction.
Can you explain what this encompasses, please?
This encompasses on trying to bring and build Fab City implementations like we're doing in Indonesia, but also doing in other southern territories in Africa and Latin America, which are not only a replication of what's being done in the north and the west, but actually start to be built from truly local ecosystems. And I have to say that I would invite this back to some comment that I forgot to say before. No, like I think like a truly efforts on engaging in doing significant change for the world, I think entails going out of certain bubbles. And again, I go back to my comment of implementation outside of the frameworks that we're used to see in certain environments. It's completely different. So if we manage to crack these challenges in the global south, where there are not institutions, where there are not the kind of the comfort conditions that we could see in other places of the world, especially in the north and the west, I think then we can have like a truly powerful and meaningful implementations of Fab City. So it's a beautiful challenge, I have to say. That's what I mean. And Indonesia is going to be a test.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because I will be a bit pushy on this, because to me, it's not about inspiring or giving a direction. It's 18 months. In 18 months, when we meet again, maybe, hopefully, or at least we can trigger something. Can we tell us what we will be able to see? So cities, countries, institutions, metrics, and when because implementing a Fab City is, you know, in a way it's convincing an institution to have one signatory for the Fab City Charter, but which are the metrics? What is this going to do for the Global South in like specific areas? What is this going to be measured? What are we going to measure?
It's just going in the direction of Fab City is doing, decreasing the amount of kilometers that products travel to get into people, increasing the capacity to produce locally food, and increasing the capacity to produce energy using renewable sources. And I see like not only doing that. Sorry?
Has this been done in any Fab City now you have measures and metrics?
No.
Including Barcelona?
including Barcelona.
So, like, is this a methodological problem, or like what is like there may be something to, I mean, and we can conclude, sorry, not conclude, but extend this discussion further and work together with the community to improve that. It's not to
when you go from theory to implementation, then you end up knocking the door of a city officer, and then the city officer is gonna try to avoid you to get the certain amount of data or give you a clear response, because the truth is that they don't have the data. And when you realize that a lot of that data, I'm talking about cases like the Barcelona one, actually they're not even regulated, and most of them belong to the private sector, then you realize that actually that's, you know, at the conditions in which we are today in the data governance model, that's almost impossible to have like a truly measured inputs and outputs at the city level, right?
Thomas, on this, it's an interesting point, and I agree that, I mean, very obviously, it's also what Peter was saying when he was saying we push for more social science studies within the Fab City network, that this is something obviously important and that would be extremely relevant. There is a series of data and of information, not only numbers, but more largely studies of how Fab City is unfolding in localities. If I may very briefly, I know it's super hard. I mean, if you ask anyone that is doing social sciences, sociology, they will have exactly the same reaction than you, saying, well, obviously there are a lot of people that do not want to share that kind of data. But the point of social science methodologies is that there are a huge number of researchers that have been able to develop methodologies, and we're kind of a little pushy on this because this is something we're
Nadja,
interested in pushing in Fab City. So there might be some things done towards this, even though it has been difficult, and we completely acknowledge this.
Nadja, I'm a UCL PhD dropout funded by Intel in big data. And because basically it was disappointing to read the many amount of papers which like take a snapshot of a phenomenon and an observation, and that was making so many conclusions about what actually could happen, which I understand is part of the research methods, but I can tell you definitely, I don't think that that's the solution, to be honest. I believe that it's more towards the data governance models is where I see that, you know, when we're able to really have access and understand the way in which data flows happen into a city, in a region, or in a specific town, and that we are collecting the right amount of data, and that we're not just taking a snapshot, right? And it's almost like a permanent observation, and that's a real challenge. That is, I can say that maybe, I don't know, the more authoritarian regimes might have a very clear idea of that. In North Korea, you maybe have a really good way to measure the inputs and outputs, but in the rest of the world, it's quite a mess.
But it's not about, that's precisely the thing. It's not about data. It's about being able to tell the stories of what Fab City does. And it's not only about, let's count how many white or minority people or whatever come in the Fab Labs and count how much they have to pay to be able to access there, and how many are able to really change their future about doing this, or any other of these sort of basic numbers that you would maybe want to look at. It's also about more broadly talking to people, and there was and again, being able to tell a story based on some of these data, and also based on what you have been able to witness, in a sense. And this is why I was calling out to sociology, because there's a lot of method in sociology that's related not only to being able to manipulate numbers, but also on how you're able to observe a field and tell some things about it. I think in anthropology, we could also tell some things about the method they use in order to do this. And very briefly, there was a question in the governance part about the amount of information that is available and shaped about what Fab City does. And from what you've been saying and from what we've seen in the chat, I get the feeling that there is an immense number of things that I'm not part of the Fab City, and there seem to be an immense number of things that I'm not aware of that would be fascinating to leverage in pushing Fab City forward and in telling what Fab City is. And I think our question, and we're pushing towards this, is also to figure out, is there something to take away from these anthropology or sociology method that would enable sharing more than just base numbers, and that would also be of help to Fab City to push forward what you're trying to do. And I think that what you're saying about the Global South is also precisely related to this.
Does it count as, I don't understand, because Adrien asked me about hard data and you're telling me that it's not about hard data, but tell me how do you want me to explain the long-term goal or commitment, as you call it? Can you agree?
If honestly, I'm more concerned about the short term, and that's basically also the ground for the discussion. But on the longer term, I think if you're telling us, I think it's great. Very honestly, and on a personal level, my opinion of the will that you express to involve more global south cities. That firstly, how do you identify them? How do you contact them? How do you work on the territories to say, well, here they could use a Fab City and not the neighboring city, because we could see that there are cities in the network that maybe not, the ones, for instance, Seoul. Like Seoul, I don't know the social landscape of Seoul, but in a way, I can see that it's probably not the most precarious area in South Korea. So my question is, it's aiming at, it's not aiming at pointing figures at Fab City. It's aiming at saying, well, how can we do better together so that next time we meet, and hopefully in 18 months or before, I hope, we can say, you can say yes to our question of, has this been the case, and can we measure that? And if it, lots of NGOs like Medicine Without Frontiers and so on are acting with governments, but also as non-governmental organizations, and they don't, they also can act in cases of urgency and so on. And I think that the idea, personally, and I think we both engaged in this discussion together because we believe that Fab City, and even more, because I could see, or we could see that you're using the term of bioregion. This is something that is not just a term. It's not just, an eye candy designable term. It's something that, impacts the life of people, be it on sustainability or the ties of sustainability to the social aspects. So eventually, I want us together to be able to say, yes, we've been putting a foot in the global south, and this is, the picture of the person that now has a job. This is the picture of the person that now has food on their plate. So, I don't
that's your 18 goal. That's your 18-month goal. I can share with you that 18-month goal, and we can. I agree. I love the spirit also, to be honest, which is let's meet again in 18 months and talk about this goal. And which are the metrics? Well, I would like to say that I would love to have like a bigger representation of really active cities in the global south, because also another issue that we have is that not all the cities are active, and that's basically because we haven't had the capacity to support properly the cities that are part of the network. That means developing training programs both for the policymakers and also for the local innovators, as we're doing with the Master in Design for Distributed Innovation, for instance. So yeah, that will be, in 18 months, I would love to have both going, the masters and the policymakers training program, in a few cities in the global south, let's say 3 or 4. That's an 18-month goal. I think that's achievable. And yeah, definitely bioregionalism is something that resonates a lot of what we're trying to do. And to be honest, more and more, I'm trying to think about how irrelevant is to talk about cities, because the cities are very abstract. And it kind of, we believe that there are objects, but at the end, they depend on a bioregional dimension, and at the neighborhood and the smaller scale is where real things happen. No? So I also believe that we should go in that direction. Then you say it's 6 months or 4 months, because I have to go in. I have to go already, but I can make an extra couple of minutes.
Yeah, please, if you want to tell us about the 6 months period or milestone.
6 months. 6 months. That's January 2023. I don't know if this is a commitment or a prediction. A commitment. It's kind of, I don't know. Again, for me, okay, we're gonna keep doing what we're doing, and that's a commit. That's actually quite a big commitment. Is I don't know. Again,
Can I suggest something?
It's no, but wait a second. I don't know if how many of you have run your own institutions and like have taken the challenge to start something from zero and make it something to grow, and to fund itself, and even the ones that you know, and you know that that's part of my commitment is actually keep it alive, which is quite a hell of a job, and together with an amazing team. Yeah, go ahead.
Because that a commitment is meant to be exceptional, right? And of course, you cannot say we are going to keep on doing the same thing.
Yeah,
which
but
I understand.
I don't want to sell you. I don't want to sell you used cars. You know what I mean? I don't need to sell you a used car. I don't want to. I don't need to. That's the thing. Like I want to make a commitment. I really believe, and it makes sense to what I want to do, not just because you're asking me.
Can I suggest
something? Please go ahead.
So.
Yeah.
Something I can imagine, and I don't know if this, I don't ask you to commit on that now, of course, it's just an example. But if you're saying that since 2011, and of course, that's a bit unfair of me to say so long ago, but that's, you know, where the starting point has been placed. So that's been more than 10 years, and now we meet and you're saying, and we can understand that, we do understand that, because it's complex problems by definition. You're saying, well, I cannot say that even Barcelona with a soil, or sorry, not a soil, but a field that is already inclined towards the idea of Fab City can show numbers, and we cannot say that this has been working. Can I suggest that and that was also the topic of governance that we wanted to elaborate, was, you know, how can the structure of Fab City Foundation mature in terms of methodology and public participation with maybe the local nodes, maybe with the citizens, maybe with, you know, involving more communities, maybe more experts also on the different matters of working in the city, of which ecological engineers, for instance, and different matters of ecological management. Can we suggest that you're going to make that in 6 months we are going to see an active actions to include more broadly people, so that, you know, it's not the people that failed previously that are going to keep doing the same thing, and that in 18 months we are not going to see results?
So
it's a bit
I was explaining before, the Fab City Global Initiative has 3 components: the Fab City Network, the Fab City Collective, the Fab City Foundation. The Fab City Collective is supposed to be that more permeable element of the whole initiative, the more inclusive, the more, again, like a more messy governance, in which, you know, very self-organized. So I think, like I said, Lucas is around maybe, but it's a good commitment to say that the Fab City Collective will be more structured and more clear to welcome people, which is, again, for me, it's difficult because this is part of the things that we're doing and it's part of the efforts that we're doing. But connected to that you're mentioning is the fact that putting in motion the Fab City Collective as that, I think like that could be the perfect platform to welcome, you know, individuals, peoples that are not part, as you say, of the internal, but it's more peripheral, more connected, and welcome them and make them relevant for the rest of the network.
So we are going to see.
Yeah, that's Fab City Collective.
Yeah. Okay. And so 1 month, like what will the Fab City Foundation or Fab City movement do within 1 month?
In 1 month is 11th of September. Ooh, that's a very bad date. What are we gonna do? We're gonna keep working on making the most amazing Fab Fest ever. That is gonna happen in Bali. It takes a lot of work. So in 1 month, I can tell you that all our efforts are gonna gear toward to make the Fab Fest an example of events in the world. To again, like it's embedded the sustainability agenda. We're gonna do carbon offset. We're gonna do waste offset in the event. The whole event material cycle is based on the Fab City principles. We're building a Fab City campus. We're doing the Fab City challenge. So we're designing what it could be, something really inspiring for the people, and that's where we're going to put our efforts.
If I may suggest something towards is that in relationship to that event, in 1 month, there is an effort towards formalizing the information on the impact of the event. You were talking about the waste. management there. We have numbers about the travel cost. There are numbers of interesting ideas in the chat about how we can understand and as how members of the initiative can grasp a little bit better. So there could be something really interesting in leveraging further our discussion towards
I can
that
send
kind
you
of
these are.
information.
I send you our two partners. This is the partner for the waste offset of the events for people interested, and this is the partner for the carbon offset.
Yeah, so there
It's
could be somewhere where all that information is localized for if people, because I mean, when we started the discussion, there was a lot of echoes of the questions we were asking regarding the sustainability of the event within the networks at large of Fab City. So it would maybe be interesting to have all the relevant information around that gathered in one place within the next month so that people are able to keep that discussion living, because I believe a lot of people that attend here too were struck by that and by how you put together this issue and that we've discussed.
My answer to that is that we are addressing these issues with these two partners. It's going to be out when it's going to be out. Again, like on top of everything that we're doing, that is a lot. I cannot tell you that in 1 month I will deliver you this, but you will have, I mean, everyone will have access to what the event signifies in terms of carbon and waste production, and also the actions that we're taking on mitigate those. Yeah.
So what we can sort of conclude
in 1
on
month, in 1 month, it's impossible to tell you any, to be honest. Again, like I can tell you in 1 month I can commit to have another call if you want and chat. I can commit to things that I don't want to overpromise you, and especially in this moment that is sensitive, and because we're putting a lot of energy in what we're doing, believe me, and we can, anything that we introduce to the system is quite a disturbance, especially now. And 1 month before the event, which is going to be in 1 month, I would not put myself or anyone into that pressure.
Okay, so for instance, what you were saying earlier about the Bali event, which you just repeated an invitation for everyone to join, physically, of course. Yes, thanks for acknowledging. So what you were saying about the involvement of the communities, the communities that are going to be abroad, is to say that they will be able to watch recordings of sessions. Fair enough. But they will not be able to engage locally. So, I mean, to me, that's eventually.
Wait a second. No. Yes. Wait a second.
That's exactly.
Look, we are organizing an event in Bali for the many reasons I explained before, which is, lifting up the potential that this, not only Bali but the rest of Indonesia has. There's a program that is curated by us, right? It's the panels, it's a symposium, there's a policy day that is with the people. There's a Fab City challenge, which are all, it's quite an interesting way to engage as well. But there is a series of workshops proposed by people in which we are not limiting that they can basically connect with people everywhere around the world. So what I cannot commit to, because it takes efforts to make things. I don't know if have you made a hybrid event for a network of 2,000 labs in the world? I mean, we tried the last couple of years, and it takes effort. And this was the year of coming together, to be honest, and also to put effort in a place, right? We also have the Fab City roundtables. We have 4 Fab City roundtables, so we do online events already. But I want to emphasize that the content of the conference is going to be out there. The symposium, depending on the budget, if we have enough budget, we're gonna stream it. Actually, for you it will be too early. It starts at 9 a.m., but you can catch up at the middle of the symposium. That is also another thing to consider, the time zone difference. And the people that is running their own workshops, they can just take their computer and create a link in Zoom, Google Meets, or Jitsi, and make a hybrid version of it. No, we are not.
I'm sorry.
We're not stopping anyone to do it.
So we will need to conclude. But what I hear from what you're saying is that the responsibility of making something sustainable, you're pushing it towards the participants and people that want to engage in that. So basically,
no, we're making a sustainable event. Adrien, don't put well. Okay, the judge is going to speak, guys, in his own trial system.
It's not a judge, Thomas. It's not a judge.
Then don't lecture me, Adrien. This is disrespectful.
Great.
This is not what I'm saying. Not be disrespectful. This is what you did in the social networks. It's like this. I'm saying what I'm saying, right? And then you just want me to take a position because you have a judgment and you have an idea of what we should do. So I'm sorry, we are not doing what you want us to do. We can keep having this conversation respectfully.
I'm concluding, Thomas. I'm concluding on the fact that you don't want to take action. What you've just said on the commitments is literally true. Continuing business as usual, even though the sheer amount of energy that you've been spending in Fab City movements since 2011 hasn't been leveraging any results. And now you're saying us that the resource usage to go to Bali is going to be useful. And I mean, that's just what I'm trying to conclude on. And then I'm leaving people to judge on the content of what you've been presenting.
It's your judgment.
This is relevant or not. This is not a judgment.
It's your judgment. It's your judgment, Adrien. Thank you. But again, it's very, again, don't interpret my words and make a judgment out of them. Don't say what I say. This is disrespectful in front of me. I said you what I said.
If I may conclude for everyone,
it's very disrespectful, guys.
It's
really also.
Thomas, I think everyone has made their point clear, and if I may very shortly go back to Peter's work to fully conclude that session, because we have to wrap up. I believe Peter mentioned that in what he has been seeing, there was sometimes a lot of ideas but little practice. And I think that the month and 6 months and 18-month goals that you've said or proposed, Thomas, should be leveraged in focusing on the distributed aspect, including what the digital can bring, maybe in the future a different way than the way Bali is organized. I think that a lot that we've said so far can be leveraged toward a compromise between the positions that have been voiced here. And I believe it would be genuinely interesting.
Nadja, we have every 3 months we have a roundtables that we organize. We're launching a distributed master in innovation. Again, I try to say things, but it's up to you guys. You made your judgment. I'm sorry, I know that you read a lot and you have a lot of things lots of opinion. Welcomes. I'm gonna take notes. I suggest you that you go out in the world and try to do something and understand the complexity of it. But thank you for the effort again and the invitation.
Thank you very much for everyone for having attended our event. And this event will be just slightly cleansed, verified in terms of recording, and we will be uploading it probably tomorrow online. We will be sharing the link to everyone on our website and the social media. And in the meantime, if you want to contact us for anything, you can use hello@freds.org, which is an address that is available on our website. And yeah, I mean, looking forward for the next discussions at the milestones that we defined. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.